Hey, odds and ends, this is Jackie, and welcome to Triple J Trail Mix. Starting off, let me just say that since the letter J is right next to the letter K on the keyboard, make sure you're hitting that J because a KKK Trail Mix is something different entirely, and is probably filled with a lot more nuts than we are here at Triple J. Plus, it probably has more raisins, given that it was started quite a few years ago, and they probably have a policy about different colored M&Ms as well. Let's just say you won't find any chocolate chips in their recipe, not counting the little hiccup that was Clayton Bigsby. Anyway, moving on from Ghosts of the Past, we'll be turning over a new sheet of construction paper in today's podcast as we discuss People from the Future, White Spikes, and whatever else I was supposed to put here, in Amazon Prime's Tomorrow War. After that, we're going to be moving on to Campfire Stories, where each of us tells a tale of how we mustered up the courage to put it all on the line for our motherland, but we were shot down by the opposing forces and dishonorably discharged by the people we called friends. We're going to be telling you about the times we got rejected. Anyway, we'll get into this week's exhilarating podcast after this commercial break.
That was wonderful. Oh my gosh.
The best thing that I've ever heard.
I kind of got carried away.
Oh, dude, man, that was great. Please carry us away.
Carry on, my wayward son. That was beautiful.
Thank you. This has been the commercial break.
Yes. Let's launch into it then. So, like you said in the intro, so we're gonna start with a movie review. We watched Amazon's The Tomorrow War. So we're just gonna kind of talk about that a little bit. So,
all right. I wanted to start off by reading IMDb's plot summary. It's pretty straightforward and very quick, very short. So, a family man is drafted to fight in a future war where the fate of humanity relies on his ability to confront the past. Boom.
Oh, that's it. I was waiting for more.
That's it.
Yeah, that was it.
There's another summary, but it's short and sweet is always good.
Mm-hmm. So it doesn't give too much away.
I know. So this movie was made and released this year. It was very recent. Came out
2021.
Yeah, 2021. The director is Chris McKay, which, if you will notice, the other big movie that this guy's known for directing is the Lego Batman movie.
I didn't know.
I saw that on something. It said on the movie on Amazon Prime.
Yes. And it also says that he's doing the second Lego Batman movie that's coming out next year, I think, is what it's scheduled. But yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. I was like, man, that's wow.
That's a big step up from the Lego movie to the Tomorrow War.
It's a big level up, man.
It's a pretty big jump.
Goodness. Yeah. Well, anyway, so what was y'all's first impressions for the movie?
We can go alphabetically.
Alphabetically, okay. All right, we all say it all at the same time.
Yeah, because
so that would be JT, because JA, right?
Oh, okay.
Well, there's no A in my name, but it's just two letters.
It's just two letters.
Yes, it's just two letters. But yeah, I can kick us off. Probably ought to throw out a spoiler warning for anyone that hasn't seen the movie. We are probably going to be talking some details, so if you don't want to listen, don't listen. Skip ahead.
And we can add a thing on YouTube that you can skip to. It'll be in the description.
Yep, absolutely. So, my first initial thoughts of the movie were I thought it was great. I enjoy these classic cheesy shoot 'em up alien movies. So it was a fun ride watching that through. And plus, I like Chris Pratt. He's a pretty good actor. Yeah, and I thought he did a phenomenal job playing his character. What was his name? Dan Forrester.
Mm-hmm.
And so I enjoyed it. And so I've got some critiques and some notes and stuff, but if we're kind of just giving a general initial thoughts, that was my initial thought. On to you, Drayton.
I liked it. I really, really liked it. I was actually, like, I feel like, the alien thing, I went into it with a lot of, kind of not hesitation, but like, I was like, okay, this thing's done kind of a bit before, a few times. So I was kind of like, okay, is it going to be unique enough? Is it going to be, creative enough and stuff like that, different enough from what I've seen already. So I went into it with that kind of mindset where I was still going to enjoy it, but at the same time, I didn't know if I was going to enjoy it of reliving something that I've seen a lot of times, or if I'd be taking in something that was completely new or something that was innovative. So I went in, and it was the latter. Honestly, I went in from what I saw, it was really creative. There was a lot of things that, I mean, we'll talk about soon, but I have a lot of points of just how it took what it's been done, but kind of put a new spin on it. But also at the same time, it was very allegorical to a lot of things that I kind of had flashbacks to of what I watched years ago.
Absolutely.
So it was really good. I really enjoyed it. It was really good. And it kept me entertained as well. It kept me invested. Yeah.
So I guess that means I'm next,
You're next.
alphabetically, of course.
Yeah, of course.
So I thought that it was a really good movie. Like, I like B movies, so I really enjoyed it. So I would say this was probably like a B plus to an A minus movie, just
Yes.
because of the way it was. It's not going to be a great movie to everybody else's standards, just because, like you said, it's been done so many times, and there's only so much you can do with this type of movie. But previously, I'd been thinking of like, what if there was an alien movie kind of thing, invasion, but where the alien was just completely OP and there was like nothing we could do to stop it. And this movie was really similar to that, as well as I believe the movie Skyline, or I forget. I accidentally watched the wrong Skyline, so I forget which one it was. But this movie reminded me of that thought I'd had, because the aliens are so almost overpowered, to use a gaming term, because you gotta almost do so much to kill them, but then there's just so many of them, you effectively just get overrun before like, there were multiple times in the movie where there was things that were supposed to help, but they just got completely obliterated by the aliens, even though they were in like an armored well, I guess I don't know if Humvees are armored. JT would know that. But anyway, they just completely destroyed the military. And the time thing was really cool to me, because it basically did something that was one of the main things most of those movies hadn't done before, is like have a draft from the past. And it did a good job of splicing the two. And I did have some critiques as well, just because of the way those things meshed. But overall, it was good cast choices and a really good, well thought out plot. There weren't too many plot holes, in my opinion. So that was my initial opinion. Yeah.
Now, so branching off on, I want to talk about their concept of time travel in this movie, which I thought was really, really original. Because I think it wasn't exactly like something that was completely unique, but I think they were coming at it from a different angle that hadn't been done before. So like, yeah, like I remember like one of the people that were from the future, he was explaining how like we've built 2 rafts in a river, and we've made a connection between those 2 rafts, but those 2 rafts are still flowing downstream. So I was like, dang, that's really good. I like that. I love that. Because then, now like what they're essentially saying is that the connection that they've made is solidified, and it's non-malleable, right? It can't be bent or stretched or anything.
Exactly.
Right? It's like that's how it is, conversely in every other time travel movie, where you can time travel, either it's fixed in a loop, or it's like, you come from one place to another point in time of your choice, or be it by choice or be it by random, but the length of time that you're jumping is malleable, it's changeable.
Exactly.
Right? But here they've made a connection that is solidified to only bridge a certain gap of time at all times.
Mhm.
So yeah, I thought that was really cool. So like once that week was over, he comes back a week later in his own time.
Yeah, exactly.
That was really interesting. I
That was
liked
cool.
that.
Yeah.
Which that actually is a concept that produces a lot of plot holes. Not really plot holes, but a lot of questions as to why they did certain choices in like shows like Legends of Tomorrow. Later on in like some of the recent seasons that they've been doing, a lot of things happen where you're just like, wait a minute, like, time is still moving while they're outside, or like they're outside of the flow of time. So couldn't they, just jump up from here to here to here? But anyways, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I liked that idea of time travel that they had created.
I
Yeah,
also like the way that they presented it to the audience because I mean personally I don't care about this that much because like I said I like B movies, but the way they presented it, they had the two teachers who were like scientists talk about it between themselves, and it was like plausible that they'd be talking about it. It wasn't just some random, I think the word's exposition that they just stuck in there
Yeah.
to explain how it worked to the audience, but they were like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I bet this is why they did it like this," or like this is why they're drafting older people is because we don't exist that far in the future kind of thing. But they didn't explicitly tell it to you, so it really you got some explanation, but it wasn't super detailed where you could poke holes in it. So the also with the raft, I like the raft analogy because it almost made it seem like it was a physical connection.
exactly.
And but also the other thing that I had an issue with is why didn't they just give the time traveling technology back to the past so that they could do that and tell the past all the way back and just keep jumping back. I mean, like
Honestly, though,
it could have been like they had problems telling, like communicating how the technology would work, or maybe they would need to transport certain things back and that wasn't able to be done since they had to have the machine on for the channel to work anyway. But I was like, couldn't you just send the notes back so that you could develop the time machine faster, kind of
True.
thing? But that was the main issue I think I had with the way they did time. But I mean, even that's just nitpicking. That didn't really affect my opinion of the movie itself.
Yeah, I was gonna say if they did that, then you wouldn't have a movie. It wouldn't have been as dramatic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, true. And I think the main I would say like the main defense that the movie would have was probably because the future was so pressed for time that they probably had to prioritize in some way. Since they were being literally wiped out. I did the numbers crunching, so they said that they said that in that future time the world population was like 500,000, right?
Right.
So I did the number crunching for that. So assuming that the world population, right, is 7 trillion, right? Is that what it is? Right. So 500,000.
7 billion. 7 billion.
7 billion. Okay, and that's probably going to be a bigger number than I did last time. I did 7 trillion.
Oof.
Okay. Well, it's still kind of okay. So it's 500,000 of today's world population is 0.007% of the world's population. That's a very, very small amount.
Yeah. That's 0.007%. Like, because when I think of percentage, I think, oh, you have to move the decimal place over to think about it. But it's like that's how much of a 1% it is. So it's just like, oh.
Yep. It's crazy, man. But yeah. I also to bounce off what you were saying, Jackie, was like how they explained it, how they gave it to the audience. It was almost like you were discovering it with them, because that's what happened for me. Was like when they were figuring it out, I'm like, oh my gosh, you're right.
It makes sense.
Like that's a good idea. That's a good thinking, because then that gets rid of the seeing yourself kind of paradox.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it's perfect. It's so good, so good. It's like, oh, they were thinking themselves too,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Oh
Because
yeah.
there's. Go
Mhm.
ahead.
Oh, I was just thinking that reminds me that there was the one kind of paradox with time they didn't address, kind of, or maybe I just missed it, where if you give details to your past, then like how would and the past changes what they do, how would you get the details of the past to give or of the future to give to the past kind of thing, which is the one that
True.
was the other thing I forgot to mention that I don't remember if they dealt with that or not.
Yeah, because I think the only defense with that would be to say that they're probably working with the multiverse theory, but at the same time, just them building the you know the time branch backwards
Mhm.
would then create a possibility that they would actually win.
Well, I
Yeah.
And
was
so
gonna say, yeah,
maybe yeah,
because like the end of the movie is they went back and killed all the aliens in their time, so that future didn't happen. So
Mhm.
yeah. So there you go. So I think that was probably the main thing is just like that since the lady his daughter, the grown up daughter,
Mhm.
was able to tell him everything because her ultimate plan was to just send him back, leaving
Oh yeah.
everyone behind to die. I
Mhm.
think that's probably what kind of was an assurance or insurance for
Mhm.
her, to be able to at least tell him that because he was the only one that was going to go back.
Yeah.
exactly.
So yeah, that could be something.
I thought
Um,
they were going to make it so that the reason that he left her was because he was off working on this thing,
oh
and
yeah,
it would
that's
be a
not that
loop.
too.
And I was like,
Mhm.
no, because she's like, I know what I'm asking you to do, and I'm like, no, this is like a
Oh
tragedy in a loop.
Yeah.
But they didn't go that
Oh
route, so I'm happy.
goodness.
yeah,
This movie had so much memories of me, of like me watching Edge of Tomorrow. Like
yeah.
it was so interesting. It was almost like that kind of going back in time, sort of
Mhm.
to stave off essentially a losing battle
Mhm.
with aliens. That was kind of the similarity, and then having the time jump kind of thing. Y'all have seen Edge of Tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, oh, yeah.
Okay, cool. So yeah, even though since that one was essentially like that sort of time loop, um, it still kind of had that pressing danger of you're staving off something that right now is impossible, but you're just
Mhm.
trying to keep that from happening.
Right,
I think.
exactly.
Yeah. Um. So what do y'all think about the alien design, the creature design for the white spikes?
I thought they were. Let's see, where did I write it down at? I said it was a good design that was creepy enough to be awesome.
Yeah,
That's a good way to put it.
I like it.
I actually
Yeah.
looked up stuff about the way they did it, and basically
Oh,
the guy who was had the I think it was the writer or the director or someone who had the whole view for the script
Right.
in the movie. He said, "I want you to make it so that just by looking at it, you feel disturbed or like you're gonna get hurt." And so there's actually like they went in and they had a concept art for 2D, 3D, and then animating and everything. But they actually added in lots of different things I didn't notice until after I read about it. So they made the skin to look pale and like kind of dirty-ish to make you think like, oh, you could get a disease from it. And there's also
Uh-huh.
really small spikes if you look close enough on the all on the edges of its body to make you think
yeah.
if you just touched it, you would get hurt.
Ooh.
Dang, son.
Hmm.
That's cool. I liked it. I like it. They
Yeah.
if y'all have played in Halo at all, these guys reminded me a little bit of hunters.
Oh yeah.
Because like since they're like almost all of their body is shelled or like shielded, but you just have that one weak spot right there. So
Yep.
Yeah.
when the guy with the claw necklace, like when he like slid down and then just bam shot it in the belly to do it, I was like, oh, that brought
Oh yeah.
memories of like doing that in Halo with the shotgun because the shotgun was like the best weapon against hunters because then you could just bam
Yeah, just get up here and yeah.
obliterate them. Yeah, that was really cool. I liked how it was, because you can tell like where they were going with, because you have different you have different classifications of inspirations for alien creatures, because you can have like humanoid or bug or reptilian or something like that.
Right.
But these one were like a combination of all different kind of stuff.
Yeah,
It was crazy.
So they actually started off as humanoid, and then they
Oh, wow.
had a reptilian version of it, and then they decided to merge it together. Which is funny that you would say that, because that's kind of pretty much the route they went. But they also wanted to make it a danger from anywhere, so like that's why they had the spikes, because they just had the name. The guy who created the story or whatever had the
Yeah.
name White Spikes, and so they were given the job to show what they look like and stuff. So they designed it to be a danger up close and from far away, which is why they shoot the spikes and everything. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
That's cool.
That was really cool. Yeah, I noticed they had like they're like almost like their front arms, which kind of reminded me of like praying mantis or some kind of like spider almost.
Uh-huh.
And then then they had of course the claws and stuff like that of like some kind of predator creature. And then the tentacles with spikes out. It just made me like think of squid, like some aquatic creatures.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, absolutely, exactly.
it was
And it
cool.
also had the like the flying squirrel type of folds, so it
Dude!
could glide. That was pretty sick.
Bro, that I didn't see that coming from. I did not see that coming. Well, I was like, when they were flying the helicopter out, I was like, okay, they're about to go out. Then they just jumped off the cliff, spread out their wings. I'm like, no way! Oh my gosh! And then just brought that thing down. I'm like, oh my goodness! Then the whole time, the whole movie, like up until when they went to the the main base, the hub in the middle of the ocean, I was like, okay, so maybe they aren't aquatic, but then. Once the queen was there, the female, then they all just started swimming. I'm like, oh crap, they're aquatic.
Yeah.
Dang it.
I was getting some World War Z vibes from that scene.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Yeah, I had flashes of that too when they were like taking down helicopters and just flooding over everything.
Yeah,
And those drones.
Yeah, and those drones were awesome too. Just how they were taking those down. Oh goodness. I liked also how like it took the approach of studying the genetics or the biology of the creatures to find their weakness and stuff. Because some of the other alien ones are just like, we gotta find like their home, or we gotta find or like they'll win by the bravery of their heart and by love and stuff like that. But this one was like, okay, we're gonna fight smart. Not strategy wise, but like book smart.
yeah.
It's so good.
I mean, I loved the little nerdy kid in his class at the end with the volcano.
It was so good. I kind of had a thought of that. It was like when they were like picking on him in the beginning of the movie. I'm like, maybe an egg that they're laying, some kind of seed that may pay off later. And then when it came full circle, I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, when that sequence and it was all coming full circle, and he's like, "Yeah, so we'd have to do this." Oh, I know somebody, and it just kept happening over. I'm like, "Oh, this is so good."
Yes. Oh my
Great.
gosh. Oh, that's great. That's great.
I thought they were gonna go also like when they mentioned volcanoes and how it would get from like this place all the way to Russia. I was thinking, are they gonna go with like the hollow Earth theory, where they have the creatures that are under the Earth's crust or whatever being shot out of a volcano, and then they were shot into Russia and they just got frozen there? And I was like, what in the world?
Speaking about the frozen spaceship and everything, that reminded me so much of Prometheus.
Oh yeah.
So much about that. Oh my gosh. Because once they found out that it was a ship underneath, and then they found the pilots of the ship that weren't the aliens. I'm like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
It's totally like this. Because
didn't it look like the pilots were also hung up on the ceiling, like they had done to the military people at the hospital or the lab?
Mm-hmm. Yep, definitely.
Kinda.
What was interesting is that this whole movie was great. It was full of amazing choices by the characters, right? Because in some of these movies, you're just like, they put in very, very stupid mistakes, very stupid choices just to keep the plot going, right?
Right.
Yeah.
The only time that happened was literally when they were in the ship and they were giving the toxin to only half of the room of those creatures,
Mhm.
and they didn't get the other ones right. But then, so then it woke up the other half, and they broke free and all that kind of stuff. But then you see later on, that there's a bigger room with just thousands of them.
Thousands
So
and thousands.
that kind of covers their butt on that sense. But it was just like you couldn't have just kind of from their knowledge at that point, you could have just like set it up to where you could quickly give all of them the toxin. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I was thinking for that part that maybe like because they had to reload those vials, and maybe they weren't thinking like if they kill these aliens that it's gonna wake the other ones up. So I was like, I guess that was something unforeseeable that they were thinking they had more time
Yeah.
to do it.
Yeah,
They
that
could have
could
moved.
have been.
Yeah. See,
Um,
Drake, I
yeah, go
disagree.
ahead.
I disagree with you though. I think that the dumbest decision was at the end when Chris Pratt's character decided to box the female alien, just straight up bare knuckle boxing the thing with the little claw in his hand. Right.
Oh my gosh.
We'll
Really?
see. You go
Yeah.
ahead.
No, that was it. Dude. I just thought it
Okay.
was funny.
Well, see, I was thinking about that because I was like, this is kind of stupid. But then I was like, okay, wait a second. Their hide is so tough, and where he was going for was super soft. So I was like, I can see why the claw was actually a pretty effective weapon. And
True.
also, the beast was blind, so it was effectively just lashing out. And so he had the advantage of like predicting where it would be, kind of thing. And so I was like, I can kind of see how it could like wiggle its way into being realistic. But yeah, at the same time, it was just like, all right, he's gonna be like boxing this thing with a little claw. But
Left
yeah,
hook, right hook, claw.
One satisfying part as well was what was it? What's his name? Chris? No. Was it the funny dude? What was his
I think
name?
his name was Chris. Yeah.
I think it was
the
Chris.
guy who killed the one with the chain or the buzzsaw.
Yes, dude.
Yeah.
The buzz.
That
That
was
was awesome. That was so satisfying because you could see the thing like noticing like, oh crap, and it just slides in.
Mhm. And then the guy's dad was just like, "Hey, dude, I need your help. Hey, where'd you go? Hey, come on."
So good, so good. Oh man. Oh, I wanted to jump back at the time jump thing was like if they would have like if they would have given the notes to the people to keep going back and back and back, they could have. I was wondering if that rigid connection that we were talking about, if it was flexible, it would be awesome if they could extend the what is it the connection like every generation. Then you'd have like I don't know if y'all know of the board game Heroescape.
Vaguely.
A little bit.
So the main concept of that was that there were these warlords that were fighting over lakes that gave eternal life, and so they to support their armies to battle each other for them, they opened portals to either different planets, dimensions, and time eras. So you had different warriors from different ages of history coming all together to fight on the same battlefield. I thought that would be cool. That would have been cool if they would have extended the time connection all the way through, and then you had all these people. But I think they probably thought about that, and they probably thought against it because it would probably take a lot to, explain to the older people. Just be like, okay, so there's aliens, right?
Yeah.
And there's time travel, right?
Well, there's also the grandfather paradox where like if you take people from the older days when there's not as much of a population and they get killed, their
Oh,
their children
true.
stop existing. And so I think I was also thinking about, like, I guess they did the 30-year time period because, I mean, or however many years it was, it's such a short time period that the population hasn't changed that much in comparison. And then also it may have been, well, it's like it's not going to affect as many generations as like someone from like uh the 1000 AD versus like someone like maybe a few decades earlier. Um,
Yeah.
as in, like, it's not going to kill as many offspring, kind of thing.
Yeah,
True.
true. That makes sense.
Which is,
Um,
why they did the whole test, to see, if you notice, they even made a comment on it that they were only taking older people, and so people who were dead in the future timeline.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, that
That's
that
right.
makes sense.
And now I do remember, like when they first came, there was a line they said, they didn't have time to test it because they were in such dire need. So
Right.
maybe that's why there was the possibility of like things happening like that, and why they also were
Mhm.
going to those measures to only take people who were dead in the future.
Yeah,
That is
makes
true.
sense.
I forgot that they did that. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
You
Or you
know,
said,
when he first got there and he first met his like adult daughter, um,
Mhm.
uh, like, uh, I first when he kept asking about how he dies or whatever, and she wouldn't tell him. I thought it was because he was gonna die there. Like it was the finale of the movie was gonna be like him dying
There.
to save
Uh,
everything, but then he doesn't get to come back, and so all that kind
uh,
of stuff. I thought that was gonna happen. That was a possibility, but then yeah, then they talked about like, oh, gonna uh they're probably gonna
mhm.
do all that kind of stuff.
Right.
I wanted to try and like just quickly run through some of the other things that I kind of thought about it. Some more broader concepts that made me think about, because what was really jumped out at me for this movie was that
Jumped out.
it yeah, exactly. It was like a lot of the connections with how it probably was for World War I, World War II troops, you know, like
How
with
what it was?
like how that experience was of being drafted, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because we haven't had something like that since then.
Since
And
Vietnam.
so,
Since
yeah,
Vietnam.
Since Vietnam, yeah. So like think about those two wars, like Vietnam and World War II, like it just these people from all walks of life who had never had much extensive military training, all
Mhm.
coming into this, completely foreign environment, and just, even though they weren't being, dropped from the skies, like that technical difficulty that happened, but uh, I was like, well, that's some glitch, man.
Yeah.
You could have fixed that. But being dropped into this thing and just having to cooperate like that and find some kind of leadership, because if your leadership gets killed or stuff like that, you form bonds over people through the training and through the experience, and then they're suddenly gone sometimes.
Yeah.
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 I just it had so many. I was thinking like this is probably what exactly the kind of thing that people in those days went through. You know, just like
True.
JT, when you were talking about your granddad, how some of his friends from Vietnam, right, was
Right.
like,
Yeah. Yeah.
how just how quickly and randomly they had like just gone and whimmed away,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly.
It's
Yeah. It's like
insane.
there's no real rhyme or reason to it. So like you notice, I mean, in this movie, I mean, there's really only one guy that was safe, and that was Chris Pratt's character.
Mhm.
Everyone else was up for grabs.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of the themes that I came up with are just the concept of the draft, and just how crazy that sometimes is, and struggles with like the question of like what people do when when they think or know that everything's going to end soon. Um, Good themes of military service and the sacrifice that comes with it. Um, I thought that was really nice, and then just the overall concept of morality and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Yeah. Exactly.
It was not sorry, not yeah, morality, but I meant to say mortality.
I was gonna say, I think mortality was what you were thinking of.
This wasn't much of a philosophical movie. It was more just
Is it right to save humanity?
Yeah, exactly. Goodness. Y'all have any other thoughts before we move on to our next section?
I was gonna ask JT what he thought like of the military side of things, like the training and like the boot camp, and then also like their policies and stuff.
Yeah, JT, enlighten us.
Well, so I mean, the first and foremost, I've never seen combat, and I don't ever want to see combat. But some of the stuff that they were dealing with, like I thought it was kind of interesting that they basically just grabbed a bunch of people off the street and said, "Here's a gun, go point, shoot, and don't die."
Yeah.
I mean, I get like the point of the movie. There couldn't be a lot of it, like in stereotypical training montage of like them doing all this cool stuff and learning how to become a unit and blah 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
But but then throughout the rest of the movie, you saw them doing all these like high speed techniques. Like they're clearing rooms and they're moving as a unit, and like they're doing these technical military maneuvers and stuff. And so I just thought that was kind of funny that like we didn't really see them training on that.
But didn't their training get cut short? So like they did have some training, but then since there was an attack, they had to get emergency booted straight there or something.
That's true.
So, yeah. They were essentially just waiting on the Sabbath to come, or like Sabbath to be
transported.
Like
yeah.
Right. Get sent up in there. But I do gotta say that their weapons were hilarious.
Really?
They looked really cool and they were like all futury and stuff, but like if you actually break down like what they were very impractical weapons, like for a realistic, like they had a lot of unnecessary attachments and stuff. Yeah, it was like kind of funny.
That's what I was thinking too, was like, with this kind of jump in the future, you think they have a little bit more high-tech weaponry.
Yeah, exactly.
But anyways, I don't know. I mean, I feel like there should have been, at least we should have been, glimpsed some R&D department, coming up with some kind of, at least building some kind of weaponry or tech to fight against these things.
Right.
I would have loved to see something like you would see in an apocalyptic movie where someone's like taken pieces of the aliens and used it as like armor or weapons kind of thing.
Yeah.
That would have been freaking cool. But anyways,
what is it? Chris Pratt's gun. It was like a M4, right, JT?
No, truth be told, I couldn't tell you what exactly it was because it was all movie.
So at first, I thought it was a P90 from the glimpse I had of it in some trailer. But I think they actually there's an airsoft grip you can get, and it's supposed to make an M4 built layout type of gun look like it has a P90 style look to it. And so I think that's what they used, which I guess it wasn't an M4, but it was laid out the same way as an M4. So I was like, I think that's what they used, because I had debated on buying it, but I was like, no, I'm not going to. It's too expensive.
Oh yeah, probably a good idea.
Cool.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was kind of interesting. There was just some, the fact that nobody really questioned what happened. They were just like, "Hey, we're from the future. Let's go fight some aliens," and then everyone just kind of went with it. I thought that was kind of interesting, like psychologically, like how people were thinking and reacting to it, and what was going on. How all these people were just, hey, you're in the army now. You're gonna get jumped in 30 years in the future to go fight a bunch of aliens that we can't tell you anything about, and we can't show you what they look like. And everyone was just kind of okay with it. I mean, I get that like they weren't okay with it, but that they just did it. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah,
definitely. Cool. Well, so wrap it up, what's the score that y'all give this movie? Like
Out of 10?
out of 10. Let's do out of 10.
I'd give it an 8.
8.
Yeah, I was going to come in at about 8.5 for me.
Yeah, I was gonna say 8 as well. So yeah, that's good. Yeah, it was a really enjoyable movie. I'm always good for sci-fi. I'm always good for shoot 'em ups. I'm always good for time travel kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely, and this kind of encapsulated all of it. So for those listening, give Tomorrow War a watch. It's on Amazon Prime. It was pretty good.
Yeah,
We're not sponsored by Amazon, but we're
Not
giving
at all.
props where props is due.
Absolutely.
yes,
Now,
yes.
if you work for Amazon and you'd like to get us sponsored, I don't know
Hint,
how
hint,
that
nudge,
works.
nudge. We would love one.
Yeah, yeah. Jeff Bezos, if you're listening.
Well,
Did he
no,
take his
actually,
space?
not anymore.
Well, I guess technically not anymore, but
Why
it
did
was-
he go deaf
Oh,
after he went to space?
right.
Well, he said, well, if you're listening, or Jeff Bezos, if you're listening, well, technically not anymore. So I thought you meant the listening part, technically not
Oh,
anymore. And I
no.
was like, wait, what? Did I not hear
No.
something?
No.
No.
Jeff Bezos has stepped down from CEO of Amazon.
Oh,
It
I
is
see.
correct.
But anyways, yeah, cool. All right, heading on over to our next section, we're going to go in to Campfire Stories.
Yeah.
So the topic, JT, what is the topic of Campfire Stories this episode?
So, topic for our Campfire Stories today is probably one of the greatest fears of every young man out there is female rejection. So we're gonna be talking about some of our rejection stories from our past and get a good laugh out of them.
Hopefully.
Hopefully, maybe shed a tear or two.
Yeah,
PTSD.
manly tears.
Manly tears.
Goodness.
So,
Cool. Well, Jackie, you want to start?
Yeah, I figured since I went last time, I'd go first this time.
Wonderful.
I mean, I didn't want to, but I figured that's how it would go. But
you
I will start as the only single one on this podcast. So to start it off, right, I guess. Well, I'm not single, but I'm not married, I guess.
Yeah,
I was about to say, I was like, well, hold up, wait
Okay,
a
yeah,
second.
okay.
very important.
Only not married person here.
There you go.
So, let me see. I'm just gonna go with the funnier one, I guess, because I'll explain as I go through the story. So basically, at my school, my high school, there was a dance coming up. I forget which one it was. It's probably some fall formal or some seasonal dance like that. And I had just gotten to. Oh no! It was like our prom. That's what it was. It was like our prom, and I was in 9th grade, and I was just now allowed to. Okay, he's back. I was just now allowed
Sorry.
to ask someone to our prom, since it's only for 9th grade through 12th grade, and I asked this one girl that I'd been talking to a lot on Facebook. But when I asked her, I think I may have asked her on Facebook, because we didn't really talk outside of Facebook. Partially because my class didn't really talk to any other classes, but that's another story in and of itself. But basically, she said no because I only talked to her on Facebook, and so I was like, "Well, that sucks." So I decided to ask somebody else. So I asked another girl if she would go with me, and she was Korean. So I had to ask her dad first, is what I heard. So I asked her dad first, and I guess he said he would get back to me or something. And so since I had asked him first, it had made them decide that she wasn't going to go to the dance because they didn't understand what it was about, I think. So she wasn't able to go, or maybe she wasn't able to go with anyone, and she still went. And so I couldn't go with her. And then the third person I asked was I think someone from my class, but she wasn't allowed to go with anyone because of her parents' rules, I think. And then I asked one more person, and okay, I think I'm getting my stories mixed up. Cause okay, so no, the last person I asked, said yes. For a second, I thought the last person I asked said no, but then I was like, wait, that was a different one. So she said yes, and so I was able to go with somebody. Okay, shoot, I completely messed up the story because I did get the stories mixed up. So this one was the
Come on,
seasonal
man.
dance. This one was a seasonal dance where I asked 3 people and they said no, and then the last one said yes. The other one that I was getting mixed up was prom, and I think I asked about the same number of people, but they all said no. So
Ooh.
Nice.
that was my 10th grade year. You know what? I don't actually know. It's been so long. It may have been the same year. I may have been just 2 different dances. I remember I had there was those were the 2 times I remember where I asked more than 3 people, and I got rejected most of the time. So it was mostly I guess like circumstantial as opposed to they had a personal problem with me, but it was pretty hard on my self-esteem back then.
Yeah, yeah. Because I
So-
mean, for dances and dates and stuff, it's all on the guy. Like, there's so much pressure on us as young men.
Mhm.
We put ourselves out there, and then to get shut down like that sometimes kind of hard.
Yeah, I mean, and also to clarify, just for like people listening, like we weren't technically allowed to date at our school, or at least a lot of the parents didn't allow dating and stuff. So that's why I chose the dance stories, because that was really the only uh, way we could get rejected at my school.
Nice.
Yeah, it was some hard years
Oh
in the
yeah.
trenches. No, I'm
Yeah.
just kidding.
Yeah, my school, my high school was a little bit similar to yours. They allowed dating, but then you had a lot of restrictions on, how that went about. It was crazy. But cool. I'm gonna go next. I'll go next. I have 3 stories to tell. So the first
Don't get
one,
them mixed up.
I,
Yeah,
I
don't get
won't
it.
get them mixed up. No, the first one was interesting because it was just a simple, like I was gonna ask this girl to a movie night, and okay, so here's how it went down. I was asking her to the movie night. I kept build up the courage to go and ask her. Right? She says yes. Okay. All right. She said
All right.
yes. Okay. And then I went back and a little bit, side detail. So my dad has a thing about Wrangler patch blue jeans to
What?
where like, he believes that both him and every other guy like, is irresistible if you're wearing Wrangler patch blue jeans.
I
So
mean,
when I was telling, oh yeah, sure, there you go. Uh,
Does that
so
logic go along with the Speedo?
that's
we will
another
talk about the speedo at another episode.
that's another episode.
Oh goodness. But no. So I was telling my parents about the me asking this girl out to movie night, and she said yes. And then my dad comes out and he's like, "Well, were you wearing your regular patch blue jeans?" And I thought a bit, and I'm like, "Holy crap, I was." So like that's just crazy how it's like, okay, well, you've proven your point now. But okay, here's where it gets interesting. So a little bit after, we went to the movie night, we had a good time. A little bit afterwards, I kind of make my moves to where like I want to try and take our relationship a little bit further. But then I do something very subtle. But obviously she catches it. She knows what I'm doing. So she just comes straight back and says, "No, like you're too loud, you're obnoxious, and I really just honestly want to be friends." And so I was just like, "Okay, well, awesome, okay." And there was like a little bit of an existential crisis afterwards of like, okay, well, I'm questioning my extroversion for a little bit. I'm like, should I be more withdrawn? But anyways, so that was interesting. Another one was where I was going to ask this other girl to a movie night. Movie nights were kind of like the more often event that you could ask girls to at my school. They were kind of the big thing.
Right.
Other than our banquet, what we called, that was our prom.
Yeah, we called it banquet too.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
So I was going to ask. I went up to this girl and I asked her like if I could take her to movie night. And she's like, "Well, you'd have to ask my dad first. Sorry." And so I go and so because she was a station kid, right? So we called station kids that because their parents were staff or teachers at the school, and so they lived on campus. They weren't boarding students like the rest of us, whose parents were elsewhere. So I went, and her dad was the senior pastor of the school.
Ooh.
So I know, right? PKs are dangerous. You gotta watch out for them.
Absolutely.
Much love to all the PKs listening, but y'all guys are crazy. So I went and mustered up the courage to go and ask him, and he was all nice about it. He's like, "Well, it's whatever she decides." So I'm like, well, crap, I'm back to square one. So I go back and ask her, and I told her I asked her to have permission. He's given me permission. So would you like to go to movie night? She's like, well, I kind of would not if that's okay. But thank you so much for asking. I was like, okay, well, I mean, she tore my heart out, but at least she surgically removed it, let's say, instead of tearing it. So it was a little bit better. And yeah. So anyways, that was interesting. But this third one is the most embarrassing one. Everyone.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
maybe not.
No. This is the. Okay, I finally got what you were saying. I took a minute to marinate. Yeah. So this third one is probably the most embarrassing one. Probably some of my family don't even know that this happened. But so I'm 13, okay? And this is like where we had just moved to Uganda, and I somehow got my hands on like one of our old one of our many photo albums, right? There's a photo album that this family that we were close to when my dad was getting training to go overseas, where we were living. It was while we were going to ILC. Jackie, if you know ILC.
Yes.
Okay, so back then it was MLC, but anyways, so we were the family that we were living next to while we were there. They had made an album of pictures of both of our families having great times, right? But during that time, I had a crush on their oldest daughter, right?
Mm-hmm.
So again, none of us are going to be naming any names. I'm trying my best to not say any specific names. So I had a crush on her for the longest time. It was my first crush. And for some reason, she had been out of my mind the whole time of our Africa, time up until right after we moved to Uganda, and I started looking through that photo album again. So I started developing a crush on her again. And since I had turned 13, I was finally, I guess, quote unquote, old enough to be on Facebook at that time, right?
Look at you.
I know, right? Moving up in
Big
the world.
man.
And so I finally get on Facebook and I find out that she is on Facebook as well.
Ooh.
So
Stars
here we
aligning.
so no joke, okay? This is what I message her saying, "Hey, how's it going?" She replies like, "Hey, I'm doing good. How are you? It's so good to see you." I was like,
Hey.
"Yeah." Then, and after those salutations and whatnot, the very next thing I send is like, "Hey, so are these conversations like private or are these like public, like things that where everybody can read them?" And so, and she's like, "No, I think it's just you and me, I think." And then I go and construct this mini essay,
Oh
okay, and
no.
it's me essentially explaining this whole thing of how I've had a crush on her and I've liked her since then, and like, oh, I
Oh
just wanted
no.
to know if you feel the same way. And so I sent that, and it took a bit for her to respond, understandably. Um, and she comes back and she's like, "Oh, that is so sweet. Like, I liked you too, but today not anymore." And I was like, "Crap."
Dang.
That was the first time I had ever had my heart broken.
Oh,
Poor guy.
I thought you were
Yeah.
gonna say you posted it on her wall or whatever it was back then. Yeah, it was wall, not timeline. And
Yes.
people be like, "We can see this," you know.
Oh,
You'll be like, "Oh my gosh, that's the worst."
Oh my god.
oh
That would have been
man.
awesome. Oh my gosh. I wish I
Yeah.
could time travel back and just do that just for the sake of telling that story.
Yeah,
Oh goodness gracious.
that's why I thought you were
Oh,
saying like, "Oh, these are private, right? Or can everybody see this?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh."
like,
Because there was, I forget, I don't know if it was me, but I feel like I watched somebody do this, and they thought it was a private conversation, and they didn't say anything like embarrassing like that, but it was just like, everybody can see this, right? And then they're like, oh, and so they figured out how to go to a chat message, but.
That's
Yeah, I
funny.
do know it can get kind of confusing on Facebook, like the first time you joined it, and also back then it wasn't as user friendly, I guess.
Right.
yeah. Now I've seen like people, like older people, back a while, like a good years ago, have that happen sometimes because they'll mean to send a message, but they're actually posting on your wall or your
Yeah.
timeline, and it's like, "Hey, I miss you. Please message me," or something like that. I'm like, "What the crap?" Like all of the rest of us, like, we can see this.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I guess it's my turn then, huh?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. All right. So I've only been officially rejected once.
Look at you.
One time in my life. And that's because I never asked anybody out.
Oh, okay.
Well, so like so I mean I did. Like I had girlfriends in high school and through college up, to the point I met my wife and stuff, but
You never asked them out. Dang, son, you must have some game.
I was a stud. No, that's an absolute lie. I was such an awkward little kid. I don't even know how to describe myself. But so well, actually, now that I think about it, does ghosting count as rejection?
Yeah.
No,
I'd
we
say.
won't. No, we won't count that because then
Well,
my numbers go up significantly.
Okay. I was gonna say because there was
No.
one girl that just like disappeared on me, but I didn't know if that counted or not. But anyway, so my story happened in college, and so I met this girl, and we started talking. We hit it off pretty good. She went to another school, but I mean that doesn't mean anything really. But we would message back and forth. I'd go visit her. That kind of stuff, and I kind of developed a crush. And
Mhm.
yeah, it was significant. and I thought I felt, kind of a similar pull from her side too. And so I worked up the courage. I was like, hey, I kind of like you. I think you kind of like me. You want to make this something a little more than just friends. And she was like, no.
Oh man,
Like,
just straight
okay.
up no.
So it gets worse though, because
Oh no,
we stayed friends, and I tried again a few months later.
Oh my god.
rookie
And she
mistake.
said no.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
So I actually ended up asking her 3 times.
Third time's the charm, right?
Third time was also a no. And then shortly I kind of brushed her off, stopped talking to her. Shortly after that, I met my wife, and everything's been good. Still had a little bit of communication with her, and then me and my wife got pretty serious, and then I cut her. Well, my wife kind of forced me to cut her off, which is probably good. That was pretty early in our relationship. That was a good call on my wife's part, and I love her for that, and I thank her for that every day.
Yeah,
Good.
pretty
That's my story.
straightforward.
Pretty straightforward.
rejection.
Yeah,
Oh,
no,
yeah.
it was pretty straightforward.
Ist gut. Ist gut, ja.
So
I had one
Wonderful.
like that, which is the other one I was debating about telling, but it wasn't near as, I guess, exciting, or not even exciting. Just like, oh, that's so different from the other stories I've heard. So I was like, oh, okay, I'll just tell the other one because it gives some interesting thing or details that people don't usually hear about. I mean, I'm not saying that yours is uninteresting. That's not what I was saying. I was just saying I was just saying that mine was super cut and dry. So like the story was like
you gotta just tell it now. You're dancing around it. Just tell us the story.
oh well, okay. So I don't know if you guys know Miyoko's.
Yes.
Vague, sort of. I've heard it.
Should I have said any names? Actually. All right, so let's just pretend I didn't say that. I said, yo, Miko, yo, oh, bro. And so we can go back and edit this, right? Anyway,
Yes.
so there was somebody who was working there, and we talked a lot, like when I was there, because I would go there a lot after work, and we talked. We had pretty good conversations, and I asked her if she wanted to go out sometime, and she's the only one I've actually ever asked out without knowing them a little bit, without being friends. And so I was super nervous, and I didn't know how this was gonna go, but I was like, I want to do this because I'll regret it if I don't. And so she did give me her number the first time I asked, but I didn't really know how to message her because I was like, one, I don't want to bother her, but then two, like, if I just start randomly messaging her, for me that just feels awkward, and so I didn't do too much, I guess. And then I asked her a second time, I believe, just to ask again. But oh yeah, that was right. She said that she had just gotten out of a relationship, and so she wasn't looking to go out with anybody, but she did give me her number. So I was like, maybe she's kind of leaving it open. And then the second time I asked, she was just like, no, I'm sorry. And so I was like, yeah, because I was really not trying to bother her, because I do realize that she's at work, and there's not much she can really do, and it kind of makes it awkward. So I was really trying to, but we got along fairly well, like with conversation and stuff, and we had lots of stuff in common. But then the second time she said no, I was like, oh, okay.
Dang.
Dang. So next time we do this segment, we're going to talk about how we met our current significant others. and how much our lives have been better since then.
Yes.
Yes.
That will
Will
be
do.
the opposite of this painful rehash. No, I'm just kidding.
Yes.
PTSD.
Oh, goodness.
Twitch.
And so, anyways,
Good. Well, that has been Campfire Stories.
Campfire Stories. I don't know what I'm doing anymore.
Perfect. That's perfect. I'm gonna put that on repeat, and we're just gonna do that as our
Gonna be the
intro.
intro for the next.
That'll be the intro. Campfire Stories.
So, anyways,
Awesome.
Drayton, I believe you have something for us.
Yes. So, introducing the word of the week.
Oh,
Gasp.
Gasp.
hit us with it.
Anime gasp.
Nani?
So the word of the week is morosis, and it is a noun, and it means the stupidest of stupidities.
Can you
And a
spell
little-
it for us?
Yes, it is spelled Morosis.
Can you use it in a sentence?
Let me see. Let me see if I can use it in a sentence. A little bit of linguistic, background. It is from ancient Greek, which was meaning mental slowness or dementia, which is the same. It's the more ancient word where we get the modern word moron, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there is a sentence. So it's from Alexander Chalmers. It says, there was first a paracusis, or imperfect hearing, changed into a surditus, or of complete deafness, changed into a suboplepsis, or uncertain sight, changed into a perfect caligo, or blindness, changed into a hallucinatio, or dullness, changed into a morosis, changed into a hysteria, changed into a delirium, changed into a mania, or raging madness.
So I only understood like 3 of those words.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful.
And 3 of them were changed.
Exactly.
Were changed.
Other synonyms is idiocy, fatuity, and stupidity. So, yeah, it's the stupidest of stupidities. It's morosis.
Wants you to go find his pine cone, and you bring him back all these pine cones, and then you finally find the right pine cone, and he says that he never had a pine cone in the first place.
Oh, absolutely. When I was actually funny enough, when I was in basic training, there was one kid who got caught playing with sticks one day, and so the drill sergeant made him wrap red tape around like 5 or 6 of the sticks, and he had to sound off for each of his sticks for the rest of basic training, and he had to account for them at any given moment. That drill sergeant would randomly walk up, "Hey, private, where's your sticks?" And he had to, "Drill sergeant, my stick is 1, 2, 3, 4, or whatever." Anytime.
Lord.
It was yeah.
That's insane, man. Whew.
So,
Yep.
is this my part where I come in and say what I'm supposed to say?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So morosis. I will be giving some rhymes that you could, or maybe even homophones kind of stuff that you could do with morosis. So the first is there's a word morose, right?
Yeah.
Like, doesn't that mean like sulking around or something? He's been morose all day or something like that.
I'll look it up.
Yeah, sounds right.
Well, anyway, you could say morose is, and then you lead on and continue that thought. So like morosis, you could rhyme it with morose is, and then you could also you could say my rose is, but you would have to modify the way you say my, and usually you would have to make it fast because when you say my, it doesn't rhyme with ma. So if you say moroses, Morosis, you would say Moroses. So when you say it faster, it doesn't have that time to sound like a Y sound. It just sounds like a sound. So Moroses, or you could just go complete gangster and just say ma, or however they say it. And so that could be like my rose is a flower, or you could say my roses were stomped on today. And then you could also fit it in there by saying to them a rose is, because when you say them, like you transition off of that into the as in the article a. To them a rose is, but you would have to do it to them a roses. You would have to end uh, instead of ending them and with the m, you would transition as being like the same type of sound. To them, a road is. So like, well, not this one. I can't think of anything off the top of my head. I can't think. It's hard to think off the top of my head, but maybe history. To them, a rose. Well, I mean that doesn't make sense, but for the purpose of adding in that final syllable to rhyme with the is, it would be to them arose history. Like to them arose history, and like you would have to play around with it to get it to fit, but that is one way you could get it to technically rhyme. And of course you would have to connect the way that you can't just say random words and be like, oh, I made a rhyme kind of thing, like in a song or in some kind of poetry or whatever. But those are just some ways you would go about finding the different pathways you could take, and then from there plugging in and taking out and trying different things to see what different lines you could come up with, and then choosing the best one that fits what you're trying to say.
Awesome.
That was pretty good.
Love it. So like Moses supposes his toes are roses, but Moses supposes his roses morosis.
Yes. So okay. So like also to clarify, I was going for like, since morosis is morosis, that's that's a 3-syllable word. I was going, I was explaining if you wanted to find 3-syllable rhymes, but like Drayton, you just said, you could find 2-syllable rhymes that rhyme with morosis, and you wouldn't have to worry about that first syllable. You would just have to worry about the last two. And then you could even go to 1-syllable where you just worry about the last one. But those are not as interesting, I guess, or just in general, 2-syllable and 1-syllable aren't as interesting because there's only so many syllables that will rhyme. Like Moses, there's only so many words that rhyme with Moses. Even if you put 2 words together to rhyme with Moses, there's only so many, and so a lot of people have already used them. So if you're trying to come up with new rhymes, or at least to make your music sound like, or your words sound like they're not just using the same old rhymes all over again, which depends on what you're going for, because I know some people do like the familiarity of certain rhymes with other words, but if you're going for something new that people haven't heard of before, the best way to go is with the higher number of syllable rhymes kind of thing.
Fascinating.
I love it. Dang.
Well,
You're a genius, Jackie.
yes,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Drayton, thank you for the word of the day, or the word of the week, excuse me.
Yep, you're welcome.
Fascinating.
No.
Jackie, thank you for the rhymes.
You're welcome.
Learn some new things every day.
Well, cool. Well, y'all have any other thoughts to share, gentlemen?
Not particularly. I think I'm ready to end with our new farewell that we're going to start doing. You guys ready for this?
I think so.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. So we're going to try and end most of our shows with a bad dad joke, or just a bad joke in general. So in keeping with our movie and some alien themed humor, I got to know, why do aliens not like visiting Earth?
Oh Lord.
Because they didn't plan it.
Oh, jeez.
Yuck.
Because it only has one star.
Oh my
goodness.
Anyway.
Thank you all for listening. Appreciate your time.
Please
Like,
try to
comment,
subscribe to YouTube. And try and follow us on TikTok and Instagram. The accounts and all the information will be listed below in the description of the video.
Absolutely. We'll see you all next week.
Please like, comment, and subscribe, and follow us on TikTok and Instagram.
Share it with your friends.
The information will be in the description below the video.
Okay.
Please
Wonderful.
share it with your friends and family.
Thank you.
Jeez.
All right.
See y'all.